JJK 261 leaks are here. Trust me, strap the hell in, okay? Strap in. Also, I'm sick, so bear with me, but let's go. So the chapter begins and Yuji's hand is in Sukuna's chest. If you'll recall, he just hit a black flash at the end of last chapter, and he has decided that he wants to crush Sukuna's heart. And as he's doing this, he's thinking back on Choso, remembering his big brother. Sukuna then goes to cast his domain expansion just like we saw at the end of last chapter, and that's when this Gojo figure appears. And Sukuna is standing there in disbelief and wonders if it's really him, but he pushes that thought away, saying that that's impossible. And then I kid you not, we have a half-page spread revealing that Gojo has stitches all across his forehead. However, Sukuna, realizing who this truly is, punches Yuji away and turns toward Gojo and says, "I apologize for underestimating you. I didn't know you were capable of going that far, Yuta Akotsu." Yuta fucking Akotsu is in Gojo's body because he copied Kenjaku's curse technique. We then have a flashback where Akotsu decided to have Rika go and devour Kenjaku's body in order to copy his curse technique, which allowed Yuta to change bodies this way. Maki objected to this plan, but Hikari says he has one condition. They're only gonna do that if everything else has gone south and everyone else has been wiped out. This is a plan to enact if all other options are gone. We then have a quick conversation between Kusakabe and Shoko where Kusakabe says, "Can't we just copy the Limitless from Gojo's body instead?" And Shoko says, "You can't use Limitless without the 6 eyes." And Kusakabe says, "Well, can we just copy the 6 eyes then?" And Shoko says the 6 eyes are a part of his physical body, not a curse technique. You can't copy it. And just shout out to Shoko, shout out to Gege for just saying that. There's so many people that have argued with me about that in the past. So, if nothing else this chapter, we're taking that as a W. Thank you, Gege. Maki then chimes in and asks Yuta if he can only copy a curse technique for 5 minutes. What happens 5 minutes after he takes over Gojo's body? And Akotsu says, "I don't know." Next, Mei chimes in with the pros and cons of Akotsu doing this. Now bear with me as we read all of this. So first, if Kenjaku's curse technique is of the constant or intermittent operation type, the physical body or the soul can't be maintained and he'll pass away. 2, if the curse technique operates intermittently, he won't immediately pass away, but he'll eventually pass away. And third, if the curse technique is a single-use, one-time technique, he can use Limitless even past 5 minutes. So basically what this is saying is, depending on how Kenjaku's curse technique works, is going to determine how Akotsu's copy works with it, right? Because if Kenjaku, it just swaps with somebody and the curse technique is only used for like the initial swap, then Akotsu's going to be fine, right? But if the Kenjaku's curse technique needs a constant kind of upkeep to perform the swap, then Akotsu's going to be screwed after the 5 minutes. Anyway, Mei finally says that after the switching of the bodies is completed, it's also possible that Akotsu's curse technique will be discarded and he'll just live in Gojo's body from now on, meaning Akotsu will completely lose his copy curse technique and he'll basically just have Limitless and the 6 eyes. So they don't know which of these scenarios it's going to be. Yuta then says he knows this is a last resort, so first he's going to try to fight Sukuna with all he has and with his own domain. If that's not successful, then he will accept Gojo's body. Kusakabe says it's a good plan, it's just not very humane. And Akotsu claps back and says, "What do you mean humane? We're about to fight history's strongest sorcerer. If we can win just by throwing away our humanity, we shouldn't even be arguing about this. We should do it." Akotsu asks if everyone's afraid of becoming some sort of monster to fight Sukuna, and Maki rebukes him, saying that we're all just worried about you. Akotsu then continues to eat as he starts yelling at everybody, saying, "Well, what about Gojo then? Is he not important? Haven't we been pushing the burden of becoming a monster onto him alone? If he's gone, then who else is gonna become the monster? If no one intends to, then I will." The scene then transitions and we have Akotsu tell Gojo that he's going to take his body if he falls in battle. And Gojo says he's chill with that because he has no intention of losing and he doesn't care what happens to his body if he does. And this is such an interesting parallel to what Sukuna said to Yorozu right before they fought. I'm going to have so many videos just yapping about this chapter over the next week. Just prepare your ears. We then have a bit of a back and forth between Akotsu and Gojo about Yuta's bloodline, because if you'll recall, back in Jujutsu Kaisen 0, Gojo revealed that he and Yuta were distant relatives, both of Sugawara. However, when Akotsu fought Uro, she mentioned that he was a descendant of the Fujiwara. So Yuta says, by the way, I was told that I was a descendant of the Fujiwara. And he says, didn't you tell me that I was a descendant of Sugawara? And Gojo says, it's Sugawara. You and me are distant relatives. But weren't the Sugawara and Fujiwara on bad terms? And Akotsu says, so I guess Uro-san had a misunderstanding then. And Gojo says, well, it's possible that both of us are right. So maybe Akotsu is related to both of those families. Gojo then goes on to say that Yuta might have been born under even better circumstances than he was, and I'm assuming he's alluding to the fact of his, prestige, because obviously Gojo was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but if Akotsu is descendant of both of those families, maybe that's even better. And it seems as if Gojo and Akotsu might be going to train, because Gojo then says, let's start off with your sloppy cursed energy. I've always told you to be more careful about that. Gojo continues walking with Akotsu and several other students, but he tells them that they need to leave because he doesn't want them to see what he's about to do, especially because he doesn't know if it's right. He then says that if I lose to Sukuna and all of the old higher-ups, the old geezers are gone, then Gakuganji Gramps will be the one standing on top of Jujutsu society. And if that happens, there won't be any more chaos like post-Shibuya incident. So Gojo is basically saying, I'm about to go in there and wipe out the higher-ups. Y'all don't need to see this. However, none of the students leave, so Gojo once again tells them to go, but they refuse. And Yuta says he won't allow Gojo to become a monster all by himself again. But Gojo says, I can't allow that. And he is thinking back to this moment right here, where he and Geto had their big falling out. He says, I can't let that happen again. I was left behind. I have to catch up to him. The scene then switches to Yuji's friend Amai, who is this guy in case you don't remember, and he's explaining his curse technique. What he can do is amplify sugar within himself and then output it in various ways. So Shoko recruits him to the medical team to go along with Nita. And Nita, if you don't remember, is the guy whose curse technique can basically pause damage and prevent it from getting worse. He's who showed up with Todo in Shibuya and healed Yuji and tried to, help Nobara as well. But anyway, they're going to have this guy try to supply people's brains with sugar to help them when they're trying to heal them. We then transition to Yuta lying on one of these hospital gurneys, having been bisected by Sukuna's slash. Nita is there and he has used his curse technique to try and prevent Yuta from getting worse, but they fear that it might be too late. Yuta says that he is only conscious thanks to Rika and he is starting to reach his limit. So Shoko tells him that she's already stitched up Gojo, so once Yuta switches, he has to activate RCT at max capacity and complete the healing of the body. We then cut back to the present where we basically get an homage to this panel because Yuta in Gojo's body and Sukuna are having a domain clash, but both are using Gojo's one-handed hand sign. And the narrator says that Gojo already showed the solution to Sukuna's open barrier domain. And the chapter ends with a gorgeous double spread of this domain clash. Akotsu using Unlimited Void in Gojo's body, and Sukuna, of course, using Malevolent Shrine. Holy shit. The editor's note at the end of the chapter is the revenge match begins, and JJK is on break next week, so we've got a long 2 weeks of Lobotomy Kaisen ahead of us. The takes are going to be scorching hot. Leaks night was just absolutely chaos tonight, by the way. For those of you that were in the Discord or following along on Twitter, you'll just know the absolute insanity, which I'm sure you can imagine given the context of this chapter. Now, I want to collect my thoughts. I want to process. In a perfect world, I don't want to be sick anymore. But my gut reaction is I really enjoyed this. I think Gege is cooking, and I'm here for it. There seems to be some kind of bittersweet poetry in what he's decided to do here, and, I'll be yapping about it, don't worry. But, I know a lot of people are going to be upset because this is a, setback for the Gojo hype train. But again, I'm actually okay with this. I feel like I can see the vision. Now, I know a lot of you are still not going to be cool with that, but Gojo did technically come back. Not in the way we all hoped, but I still think there is room for the Gojo character development that I thought pointed to him coming back. So just everybody wait. I'll make videos explaining it, but holy shit. Let me know y'all's thoughts. P.S. I'm going to leave you with this panel as a little food for thought.